Monster Hunter Frontier. A game that I don't talk about all that much. Why don't I talk about it that much? Because I've never played it. And I've spent years wanting to play this game. But never got the chance to do that. But today, I want to take some time to talk about their premier Monster Hunter MMO. Or at least as it was, because it no longer exists. You cannot play this game anymore. The servers have shut down, which sucks. But there was like a whole lot about Frontier that always intrigued me. And I just wish that I was able to play it. So today we're going to talk about my appreciation for Monster Hunter Frontier. And why I wish to God that I could have experienced this game like so many of my friends have. Now, for those unaware, if you really want to know how old Frontier actually is, this game actually came out on June 21st, 2007 in Japan. Which, that's a long ass time. You know, that was a long time ago. Really long time ago at this point. And you know what? It lived for quite a while. And what's weird is that this game wasn't super popular. At least, not from what I know. It was popular enough to do well financially. At least for, like, the first 10 years, I would say. And then after that, it slowly began to fall off, which is normal for most online games. I mean, it happens. We're humans, we want new experiences, so we're gonna move on at some point, right? That makes sense. So this game also came out around the time as Monster Hunter DOS, aka Monster Hunter 2, which was also a Japan exclusive. Which means that over the course of 2007 to the end of the game's life cycle, it literally used Generation 2's engine as a base. Not to say that Generation 2's engine was a completely new engine for MH. It was just the second generation of that iteration for that engine. The Monster Hunter engine. I don't know if that made perfect sense or not. But basically, it looked like Monster Hunter 2 for a really long time. And at some point, yes, the game did get a little bit of a graphical polishing. It wasn't really an overhaul, it was a polishing, which looked okay. It didn't look as, dated as it was before. Because I don't think this game looks bad. I think it looks dated, but playing it on the maximum resolution, the game looks a lot better than portable Monster Hunter games did. So, that's good, right? But, one thing I never really understood is I don't know if Capcom thought that the game would age the way it did, because the mainline series just started moving at a much faster pace with every game just up in the ante in terms of graphical style and just upgrading the engine. I don't know if Frontier was able to do that, as it was confined to its spaghetti coding, which is something that a lot of MMOs are cursed with, actually. FF14 is a prime example of that. So 2014 was actually the first year I heard about Frontier, and yeah, that's because 2013, that entire year was dedicated to me playing MH3U for the first time. So me getting, I wouldn't say getting into Frontier, but me seeing Frontier and then seeing the Tonfas, which is my favorite weapon from Frontier, always had me super intrigued, and I always wondered, what if we got the Tonfas in mainline Monster Hunter? Wouldn't that be amazing? And I wouldn't expect the same moveset considering how different the two teams operate But at this point, I can clearly see that the main team is putting in some Frontier-like elements into the mainline games. You saw it with some of the MMO-like mechanics with, you know, the late game bosses of World and Iceborne. And then you see some of it in Rise with the shit that Magnum Malo can do. And you know, honestly, I still have that thought in my mind, thinking about what it would be like to have more of these mechanics in mainline Monster Hunter. I really want to see that happen. And to be honest, I know it may never happen, but I would love to see Tonfas in mainline MH. And some of the SNS changes I've seen in Frontier, I really want to see that shit in mainline too. Just mix it up a little bit. I do think things like Perfect Rush and all that shit that came with Iceborne is like perfect. And don't just keep it where it is. Like, just keep it, okay? But some of that Frontier stuff is nice too. But also, just this game being an MMO, and I mean technically an MMO, but also technically not. I guess you can just say it's how do I say? It's an MMO, okay? It's an MMO. It's no more of an MMO than PSO is. And even though PSO isn't truly an MMO, it's also still an MMO, okay? It's just not traditional. So, just like being in a lobby with like hundreds, at least I think hundreds were in the lobby, it's just something we're not used to in Monster Hunter, you know? That I really want to see more of. I feel like with World especially, that's missing. And then the armor sets in this game, man, there's just so many good sets and like really good aesthetics in Frontier. And then like we get into weapons, and oh my god, the weapon changes in this goddamn game, bruh. Like, every weapon is like, even some of the things these monsters can do, it's Monster Hunter dialed up to 100, literally. And we're, like I said before, we're slowly seeing this trickle into mainline Monster Hunter. But how far it will go depends on what the dev team wants to do. Like that, it just solely depends on that, right? And I guess we'll see. As for locations, there's a lot of really cool locations in Frontier from what I saw. Though I wouldn't say I'd want to see them. I don't even know if Frontier is canon. You know, I don't know the whole story behind that. So if any of my friends who, you know, are aficionados on Frontier can tell me, is Frontier even canon to the Monster Hunter lore or universe? Personally, I have no goddamn clue. I don't know. But what I do know is that everything in this game looks fucking cool, and I want to see some of this shit in mainline Monster Hunter. Come on, Ryozo, you can make it happen. You have the literal power to make this shit happen. Now, if anyone's wondering, well, from what I said at the beginning, not being able to play this game for a really long time, well, obviously never being able to play this game, well, some of you may ask, well, why didn't you play it? Simple. I honestly didn't have a PC good enough to play it. At least so I thought. I could have played it on many old laptops I had, but I just was also really lazy. The fact that I had to set up a Japanese Capcom account, and the fact that the game wasn't even in English, even though I played a lot of Japanese games like in Japanese at the time, but I just didn't want to do all that shit. Why do all that when I have mainline Monster Hunter, right? And then I don't know anyone who's playing this game. Actually, that's a lie. I know people who are playing, but being able to play with like a wealth of people online wasn't feasible because I don't know Japanese. But then I think about it again, well, it's Monster Hunter. You don't need that much communication in the first place. Basically, it's a mixture of me being really lazy, not wanting to commit to making an account for this damn game, and me thinking my PC was ass, which it was ass, but this game is also a relic. So yeah. So whenever I wanted to look up Frontier stuff, I always found myself listening to the soundtrack, because god fucking damn, the soundtrack is fucking amazing in Monster Hunter Frontier. Oh my god, it is the last remaining remnant of this game. Look up the OSTs and listen to the fucking soundtracks. All right, dude, there's something little fuck tongue-tied, dude. The soundtrack for Frontier, if you think Monster Hunter music as a whole is really good, like if I were to describe Frontier's OSTs, it's like if Monster Hunter was like, I wouldn't even say generic, but if it was like a blockbuster popcorn film, a blockbuster action film with a lot of chase scenes, like that's Monster Hunter Frontier music. Like everything is just like really fucking hype, and I don't know how they generate so much hype from these soundtracks, but it just fits how like fucking bonkers this game is. Like, dude, so many of these goddamn tracks are good, and you gotta listen to them. Some of them are playing in the background of this very video. And honestly, that's where most of my passion for Monster Hunter Frontier comes from. It's the music. Because one, I'm very passionate about video game music as a whole. So you know damn well if the music's good in the series, I'm gonna stick with it. So yeah, I can tell you about a lot of tracks from Frontier from monsters that I know very well without even fighting them because of their soundtrack and watching videos on YouTube, which is a thing you can do now. If you've never played Frontier and you were interested, look up the soundtracks and look up plenty, and I mean plenty, of speedrun videos on the internet, on YouTube specifically. Now, Frontier was no stranger to crossovers. In fact, the game got a like shit ton of crossovers. So many that if I showed you guys all of them, I'd be here forever. But the one from PSO2 was a standout for me because I love PSO2. Contrary to what some may believe with the current state of NGS. But anyway, yes, this was a really good crossover. And also a lot of this also crossed over into PSO2 itself. And this game just, it did crossovers really well. And I'd love to see more stuff like this in mainline games, which I know we've had, by the way. But recently with Rise, for whatever reason, that's not much of a thing right now. Whether it's because of the Capcom breach, whether it's for whatever other reason, you know, the current situation around the world. Yeah. Oh, also, I believe the game's director or a member of the dev team or someone from Capcom interviewed Yoshi P from FF14. So let's talk about, you know, the stars of the show with this game. And that is the monsters. There's so many exclusive monsters to Frontier, and they're all extremely unique in their own right. And Inugami, for example, is probably one of my favorite Frontier only monsters. And it'd be awesome to see Inugami in an area like this in mainline MH. I mean, Inugami could fit right into Rise. And then there were just little giant fucking creatures. Things that were as big or bigger than Dalamadur. The big old snake. And then other monsters with just really interesting abilities. Being able to use liquid metal as... just being able to weaponize liquid metal. And it all made sense. Because the Monster Hunter dev teams like to make some kind of sense of what these monsters can do. Everything feels organic. Dude, it's awesome. It's really awesome. And I do think Frontier deserves a bit more praise for what it was trying to do. Or for what it did. It's honestly kind of a shame that the game never left its home country, because so many of us would have played this game. Definitely. Now, if it would have came with a sub fee, I don't know too much about that. I don't know exactly how many of us would have like paid to play this game every month. That's like a business model that doesn't work with most games today, unless you're FF14 or you're WoW. Yeah, unfortunately. But it's just so many features in this game just need to come back. That's like the main point of this video, is to look back on many things that this game was doing, and how, you know, a lot of it really needs to live on in mainline MH. And who knows, maybe one day we'll have another Monster Hunter MMO. I can only hope so, because as a content creator, it'd be great, because, you know, we'd have a whole bunch of content to talk about. We'd always know that content's coming. I don't know. With mainline games, we kind of already know how long the game is going to last as far as, let's say, development goes. We know that. Post-development content, 2 years at most. So, yeah. So now we're getting to depressing times, because in 2019 the game was shutting down after 12 years of service. 12 years is a long time, by the way. So over 10 years, which is good. I think any game as a service that lasts for over 10 years, it's done its thing. It's fulfilled its purpose. You know, it's been around long enough. And anything that goes longer than that, that's an interesting feat, I should say. But yeah, it was kind of depressing to see the game go down that way. And yeah, someone who never played the game, I looked into this, and I've never played Frontier, and I was still sad. I was sad for multiple reasons. I still wanted this game to come stateside, which honestly was a really stupid like thought process, because, you know, I knew it wasn't coming. So yeah, it's been about 2 years since Frontier has been offline, and supposedly private servers are supposed to be a thing eventually, from what I hear. Don't know if that's true or not, but if that is a thing, I'll definitely try out the game on private servers, at least to see how it is. I never experienced this game, and I would like to experience it. But who knows what the future holds for Monster Hunter at this point. Monster Hunter 6 could be a service for all we know, or it could be more of what World was. I honestly, I have no fucking clue. But I can't wait for the day they reveal Monster Hunter 6. And no, I don't think it's going to be called Monster Hunter 6. But chronologically, it's going to be Monster Hunter 6. So yeah, I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.